Good morning, everyone. Might be a little bit of background noise. Tend to have garden services going on this time of day. Hopefully, Google's noise cancelling does the trick. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share screen. All right, so one thing worth noting is that this is just going to be a briefing session. There's some class content that I expect you to just go and view on your own time. We would have typically watched it in class and then perhaps discussed it, but we also have our 3D majors presenting their summative assessment for last term. So we're going to give a little bit of time for that so that we can fit everyone in. So we might finish a little bit early for those of you that are just in the module. Okie dokie. So the term is called 3D visualization. It feeds directly into what happens in a standard production pipeline, whether it's film or animation, sometimes even game. It's less prevalent, I must say, in the game industry because prototyping kind of takes the role of visualization. And it's a little bit, even though it ties in with what we're doing in media aesthetics, which is storyboarding and animatics, it's also a form of pre-visualization. But this is kind of, it doesn't necessarily have a specific place within the production, whereas pre-visualization is essential to figure out what happens, but 3D visualization is more of an experimental process. So I picked Spider-Verse specifically because of they were probably the first, well, Sony Pictures were the first to really experiment with a new look in 3D and 3D animation. Well, at least on a commercial level. I'm sure there's more instances of this. And there's very interesting content about like why and how they wanted to sort of keep that nostalgic feeling of comic books and misprinting or overprinting. But we're going to look at how we can experiment with the look development of our 3D applications. Okay, so the major students might have a bit of an upper hand here because as you'll see, there's already some, or rather, there's an assumption being made that you already have certain elements in place. So for this exercise, it doesn't mean that everything that you use in your 3D visualization is necessarily something that you've modeled or created. You can source it as long as you have permission to use it, as long as it was, I would say, available for non-commercial purposes. Okay, so I'm going to hop right into the brief, and then we can discuss some of the other class content. Someone thought it would be a good idea to animate the title popping up. You don't see that when you're setting up the brief. So every now and then when the title is missing, then you're like, oh yes, that's what happened there. Okay, cool. So Chris and I will be presenting this class. It forms part of the major class on a Thursday. Obviously, it's not relevant to you guys, but I don't think there's any non-major students in the second class. So if you happen to be in that class and pitched up for this one or whatever, I don't think it's going to really matter. But the same content gets repeated in any case. The whole idea is that we're actually phasing out these elective modules so that the major is sort of a more robust component, and the focus skills actually take up the role of the modules. So this is like kind of been happening, but if you're a part-time student, you can still benefit from it. And we didn't quite phase it out because obviously there's credits that need to be allocated and so on. All right, so that's why there might be a little bit of a like a hiccup here and there because of the system changing. And also that's why we had to invite everyone to a separate Canvas course. For the ones taking the module, obviously everything is kind of more the way that you'd expect it to, but for the major students, you'll have separate components, even though they're technically being presented in the same class. So just on that, last point of housekeeping. The Thursday, well, no, yeah, the major students will only see this one incarnation of the class, even though it repeats on a Thursday. You'll just join the Thursday major class as per usual. Okay, so deliverables, basically every odd week from now on until the end of the term. We have layout and staging, which is basically putting together a 3D scene of sorts. It doesn't mean that those models necessarily need to be entirely finalized. You'll see from the examples that I show you that pre-visualization can also use proxy models or stand-ins, or sometimes just boxes, or like cylinders or whatever resembles the shape of the element that you're trying to represent. And then we'll spend a few more weeks doing the previs, which is essentially setting up the cameras, adding a bit of movement, and rendering that then. And then finally, what we do to the renders and the lights or the lighting that we've done and the render setup, we do a little bit of render and rendering compositing setup, which is also something that you're going to be doing, well, for the majors, at least in term 3. We'll go into that in depth then, but for now, we're just breaking stuff up into practical layers that we can easily combine or access or manipulate in a post processing application like Photoshop, After Effects, or DaVinci, or well, Krita, I guess. And then visual treatment is basically taking all those layers and then sort of adding like textural elements, effects, perhaps overpainting, which is a process of using your 3D and drawing on top of it to add detail. You can do post lighting, grading, of course, to essentially arrive at a type of a production pitch or a visual treatment, or just a treatment sometimes called what it's called in film. So for film, normally if there's no post-production, or rather, let's say like I don't know, a treatment almost happens alongside mood boards for commercial work, and especially in the film industry, because you don't necessarily have the ability to add the amount of post-processing that you would to an animation. But these days, especially with VFX films, a lot of these things are sort of interchangeable. So sometimes you'll have pre-visualization, and sometimes you'll have post-visualization, where you add 3D on top of the already shot footage, or sometimes you'll do it beforehand, before you shoot, so that you can do all your planning. So that's why the broader term 3D visualization is being used, because 3D can be used as a tool to arrive at a visual solution prior or post to the process. Okay, visual treatment, week 7. Okay, what you'll learn, you'll be introduced to the technical as well, the artistic skills required for 3D visualization. 3D visualization, it's a bit of a tongue twister, is used to visually demonstrate film narratives, concepts, or designs. Visualization brings clarity to a design or a director's vision in order for concepts to be communicated clearly. So focus areas is 3D layout and design. Notice it doesn't say modeling or texturing or rigging or anything of that sorts. Pre-visualization, look development, cinematography plays a role, because the viewer's perspective is really important, and that's where this becomes really valuable for game design students, is because this aspect of cinematography really defines the genre and the experience of the game. Because obviously if everything's first person perspective, then you can start experimenting with cameras and what you'll see and how the layout works, and it sort of dictates the distance of the objects, the scale of the world, and all of that. And obviously if you're doing platformers, then you can also start layering things and laying out, and you can kind of use this as a stepping stone to level design or world building, and some examples of that I'll show you later on. And then there'll be aspects of digital painting. So digital painting in a very sort of like overview, or rather, what's the word I'm looking for? But like a general term of digital painting doesn't mean that you're actually going to be drawing, or that you need a drawing tablet. Sometimes what you also do is you separate your renders in a way that you can track certain objects, or that you can superimpose or overlay textural or detailed information. So it's in a very broad term, digital painting. It's actually more compositing, but sometimes there is also actual drawing that takes place. A lot of the times, these visualizations are really short. They're more of a proof of concept than an actual implementation. So we'll use several shots and different angles to experiment with what the layout looks like and what we're looking at and how we're treating it. And then your final output is normally between 3 to 5 shots and around about 15 to 30 seconds. So they're short visualizations, and remember, they're not animations, so we don't expect you to, again, rig anything or be particularly proficient at 3D. It's more of a layout and design process. Okay. Visualization is daydreaming with a purpose. This is what Bo Bennett says. He's a bit of a, he's not necessarily an artist, but a prolific writer, and I think he's he's in the humanities, as a psychiatrist or psychologist or something. Okay, term breakdown. We'll just look at what 3D visualization is briefly. So we'll look at the pre and post solutions that it presents. We'll do 3D design and compositing and composition, excuse me, in week 2. And then week 3, you hand in your layout and your staging. I'll go into the detail of what that actually entails. Timing and cinematography then plays a role. So how do we move the camera? What is moving within the shot? It's kind of like, it's almost a 3D animatic, but it's not necessarily tied in with your narrative because it is exploration. But it does give you an opportunity to sort of check the boxes from the media aesthetics component. So if you are working on a narrative-based 2D animatic, this is an opportunity for you to replicate what you're doing in 2D and create it in 3D as well. And then on top of that, you can add the treatment for it. Then in week 5, you hand in your 3D or present your 3D pre-visualization. Week 6, we do lighting, overpainting, post-processing. And then week 7, you complete your visual treatment, which is then presented in week 8. So we finish a little bit earlier in terms of the deadline, but you still have a week 8 presentation and some form of peer review. So those are all the submissions. There's only 3. The practical project then is 3D visualization involves the 3D visualization workflow, which is visual concepts, obviously references, modeling, layout, and staging, but very, again, like basic. Sorry, I'm hearing sounds, but I'm not sure if people are actually posting questions. I don't have my camera. I don't have the chat in front of me. So if you want to say something, just unmute yourself and say something or ask a question. So some of the modeling and asset generation might, or even some of the concept sketches and references might already be in place for the majors. So that's just beneficial to you. There is some marks allocated to that process just so that the students that still need to source it can still, but I expect some form of improvement happening or some curatorship in terms of which components you're actually using from your major to happen during this process in any case. So you can reuse things that you've made already, but you need to obviously select the things that are appropriate for this particular task. And you can also obviously share models and stuff like that. So if there's characters that have been built and maybe you're an environment artist, you can swap out whatever's on like on either side of the production. Okay, modeling, layout, and staging. Let me just close this. Okay. Lighting and textures. So it doesn't say texturing, it says textures. So it's not the typical 3D process of UV unwrapping and texturing and texture painting and all of that, but it's rather finding out what the texture or textural quality of the visuals are that you're generating. Is it really grainy? Does it have a high level of contrast? Is there a lot of like specular or highlights, or is it really foggy or ambient, or like those are the kind of things that we're looking for. Cinematography is obviously the placing and movement of the camera in relation to the subject matter. Rendering is going to be important because we need to set it up so that it's functional. And then, like I said, that feeds into next term as well, where you're actually like detailing all the render aspects, passes and processes and formats and whatnot. And then digital painting, like I mentioned, and compositing and post-processing. Cool. Then, so the visual concept is planning a concept that you want to visualize using 3D tools. Concepts can include visual development and layout for larger film production, animation, architectural, industrial design, as well as interactive games and prototypes. Create and source 3D models to lay out and stage your scene and add visual, I think that's meant to say virtual cameras, and use digital cinematography principles to clearly communicate your concept using 3 to 6 different compositions. Okay. That is layout and staging, and you'll present that by simply capturing what you've done in the viewports. Okay, so you have your camera angles, but I think even wider viewport captures would be useful here, and then you can just either hand in the separate shots, or you can add it all together to a single edit. But it's mainly just focusing on what we have to look at, what the layout's like, where the focal point is. We can then look at compositions, framing, and design principles to see whether or not the shot is effective. Like the one shown in an example here, the leading lines are superb. The fact that the frame is flipped draws even more attention to the subject matter. The contrast of the subject matter is really good. The fog helps it to like differentiate it from the background, and also the plain sky with the detail on top is just, it's exquisite. Okay, so then the pre-visualization step is then set up the lighting for that scene to create the desired mood and atmospherics. This includes adjusting the intensity, the color of the elements in there, the position of the lights to create the desired effect, generate the final 2D images from 3D models using rendering software effectively, meaning we're not specifying go render this in Blender, but it just means that whatever you're using to output 2D files, well, essentially that's the requirement. You need to render images. So it does involve separating the 3D models into 2D layers by applying render passes for lighting, shadows, reflections, and other visual elements. Add basic camera movement and animation to present your concepts within 15 to 30 seconds. So what was frames or shots, different compositions in the previous exercise, it is now animated content. So it has a timing element to it. So that's due in week 5. That's rendered. Now you can, it also doesn't specify which renderer to use, so you can use Eevee if that's fine. You're slightly limited in terms of what you can separate from the passes, but because this is kind of like a hack way of getting to a visual result faster than doing it the appropriate way of like making sure that every pass is correct and the compositor has absolute freedom over how they put the shots together. This is more of a kind of like, oh, now I need a matte for that, so I need to separate this, or I need to separate this element because I want to introduce a fog layer or a visual element, or I want to draw on this layer without interfering with that, or I don't know, whatever it may call for. So that's rendered. Either way, again, a video presentation. The treatment is then editing the rendered images and animations to enhance the visual appeal and communicate the design more effectively. This may involve adding special effects, adjusting colors and contrast, adding texture, layers, or detail to the image or animation. This process helps imagine and develop the look of the final product. And in film terminology, it's often referred to as the treatment. Pay particular attention to color, contrast, and texture. Okay, so it's a visual treatment. That's not week 3. I'm sorry, that's week 7. I'll just update that. And then that's rendered and composited, and once again presented as a video file. Okay, so we have our visual concept that counts for 30%. You need to collect some references and concept art, 3D assets, and layout and staging. You present it as a video, but you really can't do without this step. So we have another class. We have another class before your submission of your visual concept. So I'd like to see some of this, and I'd like to have a conversation with you about what your concept is next week in class to make sure that these things are in place. It will also be obvious that they weren't. So don't skip steps, please. Pre-visualization is then the primary focus, which includes cinematography, or the largest component, and digital rendering. And then finally, the treatment, which is all the overlay and effects breakdown. So with the effects breakdown is basically everything that you've added, just make sure that there's still layers in the end so that you can present them as they build up and say, okay, well, here's my original pre-visualization. This is how I've separated the layers. It's a very common component to visual effects breakdowns or demonstrations or behind the scenes, where they'll show you the characters on a green screen, and then they'll drop in an environment, and then they'll add the things to the characters. So the students that have VFX will be very familiar with this process. Okay, and then that's just the detail of how the different rubrics are set out for each of those hand-ins. And that's the prescribed and recommended reading according to the study guides. So once again, you're welcome to go and look into this. If you want, especially the prescribed reading, these books and readers are available in the library or on EBSCO, but they'll also filter into each week's content, so that whatever is pertinent from these resources, they'll filter into the terms or the classes. Cool. Okay, so just again, the marks breakdown. Before I forget, just going to update that. And yes.
Yeah, sorry, I just wondering, so for this year, then for this subject, I just want to make sure we're not going to be like creating any assets or anything. We're basically just creating the look and feel of the video we're making for the end of the year.
Yeah, it's almost like a render treatment, or yeah, I think it'll be clearer once we look at how pre or post visualization plays a role in professional productions. But yeah, essentially you're not required to make all the 3D elements, but rather present the 3D elements.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, so we can still like make and add things.
Yeah, you're welcome to model and to texture them and to go the whole go through the whole animation process, but obviously that takes time, and you're not allocated. There aren't any marks allocated to that, so it might help improve the final product, but it might also bog you down. And the problem is, like, you shouldn't get stuck in this process, because it needs the whole point of it is to do it as fast as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. So just the breakdown once again. Visual concept is 30%. That's 30% in week 3 already, so it's a large chunk. But what we do with formative assessments, which is what the visual concept is we allow you to, once you've submitted something and you've gotten your feedback, you can still improve on that, because the point of it is that's a progress. It's a work in progress submission. And it's not every subject that does this, but it makes sense for animation, because the more you work on it, the better your final submission would be. Pre-visualization and the treatment are both summative submissions, so they're sort of set deadlines. And the reason for that is because you need the one to continue with the other one. All right. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't hand in on the deadline. It just means that once you've handed in, you can still improve on it, and you can still improve your marks. Normally, we don't deviate more than 10%, just because it would be unfair if you spent all your time just working on that thing. Then the deadline wouldn't have mattered to begin with. But we do give you the benefit of improving on it. The academic rules, standard. Your third year should know this by now. And I am using visual references from the Spider-Verse. I'll just break down where exactly those specific ones are from. It does take a while, so I haven't done that yet. If we hop over to today's unit, that information is just repeated or extracted from the brief, and I'll update these little thumbnails for us as we go. It's myself and Chris, like I mentioned, and in the briefing session. Okay, so there are some videos over here and there, and I think we're just going to look at one or two, and then the rest, please do so on your own time. I mean, they're available, so all you need to do is just play them, listen, watch, carry on with your work, and yeah, just enjoy. I think I always try and find resources from places that have more than, like, so they're not like scattered YouTube videos, but they're from reputable sources or people that specialize within that area. So I don't know if you're familiar with the Fengzhou School of Design. They specialize in concept art and pre-production. And what they use 3D visualization for is creating mock-ups that they can then paint on top. There was actually a really good example that I saw today. It was like it's on my Instagram, so I need to, let me see if I can quickly go there. It's the wrong Instagram. This is just a little bit off topic, but I thought it was a really good example of switching profiles. Where does one do that? Oh. I don't know why these things disappear after a while. May I, please? My bookmarking process is sending messages between my Instagram accounts. Wait, did I have to read that actually? Oh, it's just on that. Okay, cool. So I just spotted this morning and I thought it was quite pertinent. So what this guy does is he takes pictures of like everyday objects and then designs on top of that. So adds detail and like textural and modeling detail or as a source of concept art. So it's actually quite a common process, but I just thought that this was quite fun. Like a shampoo bottle and a razor shaver, potato peeler, can opener, makes all these spaceships from it. This is pretty cool. It's quite fun. Okay. Sorry for the sidetrack. But that's essentially what we're going to be doing with 3D models. So we'll lay out the basic perspective and the volume and the scale of the object, and then we'll treat it so that it becomes a final visual that we can reference when we're going forward with production. I heard another pling. Erin?
Hi, I just wanted to ask when the week one briefing will be unlocked. We do not have access to it as of yet.
Refresh.
It might be because we're from the Thursday class originally, Erin.
I'm not.
Oh, my bad then.
But it just, I've refreshed it a couple of times and it just says this page is part of the module term 2 3D visualization and hasn't been unlocked yet.
What?
I don't know if anyone else is having that problem or if it's just me.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer you. Everything seems okay from this side. Did you accept the invitation?
Yes, and there are a couple of people in the comments saying they're having the same problem too.
No, that's sorry. I don't know. It might just be a technical glitch.
Okay, if it's not through by like tomorrow morning, then I will send you an email.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
I can try unpublish and publish it again and see if that helps. No, I found it. Never mind. Okay. It should work now. If you refresh.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, cool. So now you can go and have a look at these videos. There's this one's a little bit dull, but I think it gets the point across of what pre-visualization in the sense of animatic is. I really love the Ian Hubert presentation that he did at a Blender conference, where he shows the various sort of cheats and techniques at creating environments. So sometimes he just does camera projections from photographs, and he's worked on like really big budget productions like The Matrix and I forget which other ones, but that was one of the examples. And then obviously there's also Marvel Studios that uses this technique because of the nature of their films. So there's a little bit of that, how they make movies. There's more on the Marvel process, but this one's like sponsored by Autodesk, so I like bumped it down. And like I said, the Fengzhou Design School is really good. Framestore has pre-production services, which includes just more information on it and how they go about making films, pre and post visualization. They're obviously a massive production company, so you'll see some of their case studies. VFX company in the UK, I think, or internationally. So there's a section on pre-visualization there, and you can look at all their work, go and poke around. It is something that people do for a living. It's like some artists, 3D artists, only work in pre-visualization, only work in the concept phase. So if you do specialize, it's something that's like a viable career option. Yeah, and then there's some more just links to actually this seems this doesn't seem right. I think this link may have deprecated. I think Rocketstock got bought over by Shutterstock. Okay, I'll update that link. In fact, I'm just going to remove it for now. Cool. Okay, let's quickly have a look at this. I just need to change my mute this while the ad plays, and then I just need to change my sharing. Cool. And then I think we've got time for this little clip over here.
This shot is a rough version of the final battle in Avengers Endgame, and it looks pretty similar to what you saw in theaters.
Yes, Dylan.
Sorry, I only realized now if I'm in the right class or not, but I got the email this morning at 8 a.m. and I saw it on the calendar. I am having class now, so I'm not sure if I'm in the right class or if I'm late for class, because I only got it at 8 a.m. this morning, the email that I am supposed to be.
Yeah, that's this class was published.
Oh, crap.
Did you? Are you? No, but wait. Are you in the Thursday major class by any chance?
I can check quickly.
Animation major.
It's term 2.1, semester 1.
Alex.
So.
Hi, sorry, I'm also a little confused because I am in the TSA major class. Am I also in the right class? Like,
the content will repeat in Thursday's class, and also we're done with the with the briefing session for today. So the majors need to stay on,
okay.
And then we'll start with the review of their submissions.
Right. Thank you. Sorry, I was a little lost too now.
I would just like to know, will we be marked as late, since we technically only got it this morning? The email.
No, but when did you? No, it's fine. You made the effort, and I've recorded this session, and I'll post it on the Canvas course. Just follow the information and the briefing session. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. And again, it'll be repeated on Thursday as well.
Okay, should I stay in this class then?
If you're presenting today, yes. If you're not, then I've covered everything that I've set out to cover today. The rest of the content's on the Canvas course. Please go and watch the videos that I've posted there that we haven't gotten to. The one with Ian Hubert is quite long. It's about 40 minutes. So yeah, go and check that out. And then there's another one covering some of Marvel's post visualization processes.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll attend in first this class. I was just a little bit unsure. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's my bad. Yeah, I ran out of time. I had to attend a conference last week, and then it ate into all my prep time. So everything was kind of last minute.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day then.
You too.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Does everyone understand the brief and the process and what we're sort of setting out to do? Yeah, normally it starts at 11, but if we have some of our major students here, we can already kind of start looking at their work. Cool, but we'll break for a little bit until 10 past, and then start with the majors. Thank you for everyone else that joined us. If you have any questions, you're welcome.
Sorry, are we going to go on in this Google Meet session or the one for?
We'll probably have to switch because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone joining just that one, we'll go to that one.
Yeah, but will they? Yeah, just join the other one, please, because I don't know if everyone.
And then the recording can also be separate.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
So just join your major class. It's just this week. We won't, like, following weeks, we'll still spend the entire 2 hours on the modular content. Cool. That's it. No more questions. Enjoy the rest of your day. See you just now. Or see you just now. Bye.